Beneath the eternal blue of the Mediterranean, where sunlight drifts like liquid gold through the depths, there sleeps a forgotten kingdom. Marble pillars rise like ghosts from the sand. Stone gods stare upward through veils of silence. And in that drowned world, the sea guards a name the centuries could never erase. A name spoken with awe and longing, even now. Cleopatra, Queen of the Nile, the last pharaoh of Egypt, the woman who defied empires and outlived her own civilization through legend. It is said that beneath the restless waves off Alexandria's coast, her palace still lies. Columns shattered, courtyards buried in coral, and statues of gods turned to salt-stained sentinels. But somewhere in that darkness, beneath the song of the currents, lingers her spirit, radiant, proud, and undying. How did this queen, born of silk and sunlight, and the jewel of the ancient world, vanish into the sea? How did a throne that once ruled from the desert to the delta end beneath the waves? This is the story of Cleopatra's palace, and the day when an empire sank into the deep. The year was 51 BC. Egypt, older than memory, trembled on the edge of ruin. The Ptolemaic dynasty, descendants of Greek conquerors who had ruled for nearly 3 centuries, now stood surrounded by the shadows of Rome. And upon that fragile throne sat a young woman, barely 18, Cleopatra Sabams, daughter of the Nile, heiress to 2 worlds, Greek by blood, Egyptian by soul. A queen of intellect sharpened like a blade, of beauty that commanded silence, of ambition forged in flame. Unlike her forebears, Cleopatra did not merely inherit a kingdom. She seized it. When her brother Ptolemy XIII, a boy king ruled by greedy courtiers, sought to cast her from power, she was driven into exile, her chariot of gold replaced by sand and wind. Yet even in exile, the gods seemed to whisper her name through the desert storms. She was not done. She would return, not by the sword, but by legend itself. In 48 BC, Julius Caesar came to Egypt, the conqueror of Gaul, the Lion of Rome, chasing his rival Pompey the Great to the banks of the Nile. Pompey sought refuge with Cleopatra's brother, but treachery met him first. His severed head was offered to Caesar as a gift of alliance. Caesar recoiled. He had not come to see Rome's honor stained on foreign soil. And so he remained, tangled in Egypt's royal feud, caught between a boy king and an exiled queen whose destiny burned like a star. Then came the night that changed history. As legend tells, Cleopatra had herself smuggled into Caesar's presence, wrapped not in royal robes, but within a rolled carpet. When the cloth unfurled before the Roman general, she emerged like a vision, radiant, fearless, perfumed in myrrh, her eyes burning with intellect and mystery. Caesar, who had stared down armies and kings, found himself conquered by a single gaze. Their union was more than passion. It was a pact between power and brilliance. Together they restored her to the throne. Together they became legend. From the marble terraces of her palace in Alexandria, Cleopatra ruled beside Caesar as Egypt bloomed once more. Theaters filled with laughter, libraries overflowed with knowledge, temples echoed with hymns to Isis. She revived the glory of the Ptolemies, yet in her court beat the heart of old Egypt, a kingdom of gold and ritual, of scholars and astronomers who mapped the stars themselves. Alexandria shone like a beacon at the edge of the world, its harbor crowded with ships from Greece, Rome, and Nubia. The Pharaoh's lighthouse blazed through the night, a tower of flame guiding sailors to her city. And within the palace, fountains whispered beside marble halls where Cleopatra's presence commanded devotion. She was more than mortal. To her people, she was the goddess Isis reborn. Draped in silk and gold, crowned with cobras of sovereignty, she walked through clouds of incense as priests bowed low. Her words held the rhythm of prophecy, her gestures the grace of the divine. Yet beyond the gilded gates of her palace, the world shifted once more. Rome watched, and Rome never watched idly. When Caesar fell to the daggers of his own senators on the Ides of March, 44 BC, Cleopatra's star dimmed. Her protector was gone, her ally dead upon the marble of the Senate floor. The tides of power turned cold. Rome descended into chaos, and from that chaos rose 2 men. Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, cold and calculating, and Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal general, bold, magnetic, and restless. Cleopatra chose Antony. Their meeting was the stuff of legend. She sailed to meet him not in armor, but in splendor. Upon a barge gilded with gold, its sails of purple silk, its decks perfumed with rose petals and incense. Musicians played as oars dipped in rhythm to the Nile's current. Antony, the warrior of Rome, beheld her and was undone. She dazzled him not merely with beauty, but with wit, charm, and the power of her presence. He saw in her not a woman of the East, but a queen equal to his ambition, a sovereign of destiny. Together they forged an empire of their own. Egypt reborn in glory, draped in the union of the eagle and the lotus. From the throne rooms of Alexandria, they ruled as lovers and monarchs. They dined upon gold, sailed the Nile on perfumed waters, and raised goblets to the gods. Cleopatra bore Antony 3 children, heirs not just to Egypt, but to Rome itself. The world seemed theirs to command. Yet the world does not forgive divided loyalties. In Rome, whispers grew into venom. Antony, they said, had been bewitched, enslaved by the witch queen of the Nile. Cleopatra became the serpent of rumor, the enchantress who sought to poison the republic. Octavian, ever patient, prepared his trap. In 31 BC, at Actium off the coast of Greece, the fate of the ancient world was sealed upon the sea. The fleets of Antony and Cleopatra faced the armada of Octavian beneath a sky bruised with storm. For hours, thunder and fire tore through the waters. Arrows screamed, ships burned, oars splintered, and men vanished beneath the waves. The sea turned red beneath the smoke of empire. Then, amid the chaos, Cleopatra's flagship turned, retreating toward Egypt. Antony, torn between love and command, followed her into the storm. Behind them, Rome's banners rose over the wreckage. Their empire had drowned before the waves did. Back in Alexandria, the lovers took refuge in the palace that had once echoed with music and triumph. Now the halls whispered only despair. Outside, the world narrowed. Octavian's legions surrounded the city, cutting off escape. Antony, believing Cleopatra dead, fell upon his sword. When she found him dying, she cradled him in her arms, his blood staining the silks of her gown. The queen who had conquered empires wept over the warrior who had lost the world for her. Yet even in grief, her dignity did not falter. Cleopatra prepared for her own end with the calm of a goddess fulfilling prophecy. She ordered the construction of a mausoleum, a tomb of marble and gold, filled with treasures fit for eternity. Its doors closed upon the queen of the Nile as the city outside crumbled. On August 12, 30 BC, Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, died as she had lived, on her own terms. The manner of her death remains legend. Some say she pressed the asp, the sacred cobra of Egypt, to her breast, a final symbol of sovereignty. Others whisper of poison concealed in a comb, or a vial hidden among her jewels. But all agree, with her death an age ended. When Octavian entered Alexandria, he found her throne empty, her empire silenced. He took her treasures, her children, her city, and with the flutter of Roman banners above the harbor, 3,000 years of pharaohs came to their close. Yet the sea remembers what men forget. In the centuries that followed, the earth itself began to shift. Earthquakes tore through Alexandria's coast. The once golden harbor split and sank. Temples cracked, obelisks toppled, and marble palaces slid silently into the deep. The city of Cleopatra, the heart of an empire, was swallowed whole by the Mediterranean. Its splendor buried beneath sand and salt, its memory turned to myth. For nearly 2 millennia, the waves guarded her secret. Fishermen whispered of shapes beneath their nets, of pillars glimmering in the dark, of statues that watched with empty eyes. But the world above forgot the queen beneath the sea. Until in the late 20th century, a seeker returned. In 1996, a French archaeologist named Frank Gaudio led a daring expedition off the coast of Alexandria to search for what history had claimed was lost forever. His team mapped the seafloor, scanning through layers of sand and time, and then one by one, the ghosts began to return. Massive stone blocks appeared where there should have been none. Carved columns, fragments of sphinxes, and shattered statues emerged from the silt, faces that had not seen sunlight in over 2,000 years. When divers brushed away the coral, they found hieroglyphs glinting faintly beneath their lamps, names of gods, names of kings, and among them, the unmistakable cartouche of Cleopatra. They had found her palace, not in myth, not in story, but exactly where the sea had hidden her. The divers descended into a world frozen in the moment of its fall. The great temple of Isis, where Cleopatra once knelt in ritual prayer, lay scattered across the seabed. Obelisks lay tilted like fallen towers. Fragments of colossal statues, their features serene despite ruin, stood half-buried in the sand. Bronze coins bearing her likeness glittered faintly, caught in the light like whispers from another age. And there, at the edge of the ruins, they found a chamber carved from the living rock, its entrance sealed by collapse. Within it, pieces of fine gold leaf clung stubbornly to the stone, and ivory fragments marked the corners of something sacred. Something meant to endure. Could this have been her tomb, her final sanctuary beneath the sea? The currents gave no answer, only silence, soft and eternal. To stand in those waters is to feel time itself dissolve. Every ripple, every shimmer of light through the blue feels like a memory rising from a dream. You can almost see her there, the queen who called herself Isis reborn, walking through her palace at twilight, the sound of sandals on marble, the scent of lotus and frankincense drifting through the halls. Beyond her window, the harbor glows with torches, the ships rocking gently against the quay. The sea breeze brushes her face, carrying the laughter of her children, the distant music of flutes, the hum of a city alive beneath the stars. She closes her eyes, and for a moment, all is still. Then somewhere far off, thunder rumbles, the earth shifts, the walls tremble, statues tilt, servants cry out, and the palace that once ruled the known world begins to slide into eternity. Stone by stone it descends, swallowed by the same waters that gave Egypt life. The harbor fills with dust and silence. The queen's voice fades, yet her name remains suspended in the depths, shining faintly in the dark. Today, divers drift where once kings and gods walked. They move through the ruins of an empire, touching the same stones Cleopatra touched. The silt stirs around them like incense smoke, and in the flicker of their lights, the past breathes again. Historians say she died a mortal death, defeated, poisoned, buried. But beneath the sea, there is another truth. Cleopatra was never conquered. Her empire merely changed kingdoms. Her palace became her temple. Her throne became the ocean floor. The goddess queen did not fall, she descended. She did not vanish, she transformed. Even now the currents carry her story, weaving it into the tides. Each shimmer of sunlight through the waves is her diadem. Each whisper of foam upon the shore is her voice, echoing through eternity. And so, when you stand upon the edge of the Alexandrian harbor and look out toward the horizon, know this: beneath those blue and silent waters, a queen still reigns. Her city may be gone, her lovers dust, her empire drowned, but her legacy endures, more radiant than gold, more unbreakable than stone. Because Cleopatra was never merely a ruler of Egypt. She was the embodiment of Egypt itself, the breath of its gods, the fire of its heart, the eternal mirror of its soul. And as long as the sea remembers her, Egypt will never truly die. For down there, where marble dreams lie half buried in the sand, and time moves like the slow beat of a drum, Cleopatra still walks among her ruins, crowned in starlight, wrapped in silence. The last pharaoh, the queen beneath the waves, the woman who defied empires and conquered time itself. Her palace sleeps, but her legend does not. And when the ocean stirs, you can almost hear her whisper, "I am still here." For more mysteries and lost civilization like this, like, comment, and subscribe because your support keeps us here.